Well, good morning. Day 17 of our 99 days. Um, just wait a little bit. See if anyone wants to join. In this last week, a lot is happening within me. I'm not even sure where it comes from or why it's happening. And in fact, it doesn't really matter where it's coming from, but it's been quite intense. And I can find reasons because of things that are happening around me, not with me, but with people I love and care for. So that might touch me as well. And I've had some short nights. So that also brings your frequency a little bit down. But underneath that, there's just this, I don't know, kind of deep sense of sadness somehow. I don't know how else to describe it. And it's been lingering with me for days now, and it's not always there. But quite frequently. And it could also be because we are connected together in this group. Whether you can imagine that or not, it is kind of a field we created together. We are going kind of through same and similar experiences in similar ways. So apparently for me, there's something to be seen here. And that's, of course, perfectly fine. Not always comfortable, far from that. But I can't deny it either. So that's just a little introduction of really the topic I want to talk about. There are actually two things I want to talk about today. I think it's really, really helpful for any one of you during this process to create little positive experiences. Even if you become aware of a little thing, just notice that and be happy with that, truly happy with that, in a sense like this feeling of proudness or feeling of progression. Or don't push it away like it's nothing and I'm not even where I want to be, or if there's any expectation on this 99 days, or if there's a lot of frustration that's more dominant than the little positive things, then also try to confirm these positive things. It's very useful and almost necessary to become aware of what is changing, because that makes the awareness so much easier and more in flow. And even when you're aware of the sad things and the frustration and the anger and the whatever comes up, or the sadness, then just the fact that you're aware of it is already something to celebrate. Because it's just not easy going through intense processes and still hold on to the practice. And even if you tell yourself, like the thoughts, that you should continue, it's still intense. And you still want to, it's good, but it's not always nice to feel this sad and unhappy or frustrated. And if you're in the state after these first 16, 17 days that there's not really much happening, but you've become more aware of your thoughts or the patterns or your lack beliefs, or then be happy with that. The only thing we're doing is raising awareness on whatever matter it is. And of course, I'm sharing the tricks of the mind. So while we're happy with the little progress, at the same time, we must be honest with ourselves and see whether it's still a trick of the mind or whether it's really a different state of being. But if you're not ready for that different state of being, you're just exploring your mind and your thought patterns, and you're opening up to your lack belief system. That's great. It's amazing already. So today I want to dive in a little deeper in thoughts and how they appear. And there's always an interesting little exercise to become aware of a thought, is asking yourself, and it helps to close your eyes and just take a deep breath and then ask yourself, I want to have a thought. And when I ask that question, no thought comes up. Isn't it fascinating? You have thoughts all day long, and when you ask for one, nothing comes up. It just keeps silence for a while. As long as you're present, and in that moment you're present because you are at that moment when you ask that question, you're literally becoming the observer of the thoughts. And by becoming the observer of the thoughts, you are going into your state of presence. Until that state, until you leave that state, and then you go back into the mind again. And when you're in the mind, you're not in presence. That's just very black and white. There's no gray in that area. It's black and white because you go in and out. You're not halfway there. It's just either you're in or you're out. So who is it that is aware of thoughts? Or who is it that it's aware of presence even? Because when you are in that state where you ask for the next thought to come up, and you keep silent, and it is silent, then you can become aware of that state you're in. Then you become aware of your present state. Because even you can observe that. And this gets a little tricky for the mind, because the mind wants to understand this, wants to put words to this, wants to grab this, but you can only experience it. And if you just see it as a little practice, just play with it a little, and start with this question: where is my next thought? And see if you then can become aware when a thought comes in. And if you can become of that moment when a thought comes in, become really aware of that moment, then you are able to observe the thought, become aware of the thought. And that's really kind of next level thing. It still is to me. Just observing the thoughts is more difficult than staying in presence with no thoughts. Because when I observe my thoughts, the I am is observing the thoughts, then I really have to detach from the thoughts. I really have to watch it like a movie. And then the next level, if your thought comes up and there's also a feeling in your body rising up with that thought, can you observe that? You observe these little steps. So there are two ways to approach this. You either catch yourself like, oh, I'm caught up in the story and I was completely not aware what I was doing in the moment. I was not mindfully, like mindfulness is practicing us, showing us that I was not aware what I was doing. I was just completely caught up in the mind. And then you step out of it and you become aware, and then you step back and you get back into your mindful or heartful state. It's not a mindful state, it's a heartful state. At least, that's what we're going to. It's where we're going to, sorry. And the other way around is just what I shared earlier. Just be curious about the next thought. Become really curious when a thought appears. And after my first 6 years on this path, I was not aware of this practice of becoming so aware of the thoughts. And up until someone pointed this out to me during the 99 days I followed, I realized that that's actually the only work that really needs to be done for us to come from our mind, to get out of our mind, to get into a different state, and to open up to a different consciousness, or a higher level of consciousness, or go from the unconscious to the conscious state, whatever sentence you prefer. It's all the same in the end. So I could sit with you and just talk for 99 days just about thoughts, and becoming the observer of thoughts, and becoming the observer of being in the present state, etc., etc. But that's a very difficult process for the mind to accept, because all those purging needs to be done. So you're opening up to something where you were unconscious of most of the time. You only were conscious of it when it got triggered. But now you're opening up to it unconsciously, and it just comes up. Like my feeling of sadness, it just comes up. There was no trigger. Or perhaps there was, but there was no direct link to a trigger. So our mind needs to understand what the process is. At least my mind needed to understand what the process is. Because it helped me to let go of things. And it helped me to focus on this practice of becoming aware of thoughts. Because I felt that was something really controllable. Like I can do something, I can work on something that really helped me. It was very different from the practices I had before, while just going into meditation and meditation and meditation. And then, of course, they say also in these practices that you have to become aware of thoughts and let go of the thoughts and see them floating by in clouds, etc. But that didn't felt like something I could work with. That more felt like something I had to let go of. And both ways help, of course, and it both leads to the same goal, if you can call it a goal. But for me, it was just this being really fascinated with how the mind works. And then the difference between the Chitta mind, the mind that's just very clear on things, just gives you clear messages. Clear insights on things. These are also thoughts. But it's not a chatter monkey mind that takes you out of awareness. If a thing comes up in a mind out of clarity, I can often have when I coach someone, things come up out of nowhere. Because during those sessions, I try to be as present as possible. To just open up to what needs to be shown there. And then funnily enough, the things that come up, especially when it's about deeper layers, then they're just random thoughts. They're not stories, they come up like a random thought. Or like an insight. So a thought is not wrong. Like the ego is not wrong. On the contrary, we both need it. We both use it. It's one of our core elements of a conscious being, of a human being. The ego is only in the way when the thought is covering up something you're not honest about, something you don't want to see, and then the ego takes over and makes a story which is better to believe or more easy to believe. Or it gives you a feeling which makes you feel better in that moment. But if you really are from a present state receiving clarity on things, then that same ego is the one who can direct you on your path. That's the one that gives you clear indication of where to go, actually. That's the one that translates your desire that's within you, your highest excitement that's within you, or that what really resonates for you. And that translates it in something which you can achieve or can realize or can create in your life. So becoming aware of these thoughts, and also become aware of where the mind creates another belief system during this process. Because if you have experienced like a few times you've experienced this state of presence, and if you've done that often enough, then the mind can even say like, okay, I know it now. I have it under control. I'm in present all the time. And then before you know, you think you are in a state of presence all the time, but you're actually not. You're just back in your mind, believing that you've got it. You can only sense it. There's a really difference between thinking something and believing something and sensing something. As nothing comes up. It's really funny. So just sit with me. Just ask yourself now, when does the next thought come? Perhaps you became aware of sounds. There's a lovely bird here next to me, making sounds. Then if anyone is familiar with the Vipassana practice, you can go to retreats, Vipassana retreats, and then I think it's about 10 days. And there's like at least 8 hours of dedicated meditation practice. And the objective is to become aware of everything, every little detail. Catch the sound before it becomes a sound. Become aware when you hear a sound is a sound. Become aware of pain in your body when you sit for hours. Not straight hours, straight 8 hours, but you have some breaks in between, but the sessions are quite long. And become aware when your body is going into resistance, and can you breathe through that? Or sit through that without getting into the agonizing thoughts patterns. Like, this is uncomfortable, I don't want to sit here, I want to be walking, this is not fair, this is not healthy for my body, etc., etc. And although I would like to see meditation as just a new way of being aware while you're living, just being consciously aware of what's happening, to me that's meditation. It does really help during these 99 days to integrate a meditation practice. So perhaps after every session, just see if you can extend the half hour to an hour and just meditate for a while in silence. Just become aware of what is happening. And every time you're lingering off or you're too caught up in the uncomfortability of your body or uncomfortability of emotions that come up, and just gently go back to the first state. Take a deep breath and start all over again. And somewhere around 40 days or 9 weeks or whatever science survey you believe, you need at least a number of days, like 30, 40 days, to practice something, to learn a different pattern in your system. Not just to learn it, but to really integrate it. To really see that new pattern exactly as natural to you as the old pattern. So you don't have to actively let go of old patterns, in the sense that you don't have to actively erase them. You just override them with new patterns. And they just simply, because of that, they simply disappear. Like the pattern being from being unconscious about thoughts to a new pattern, become conscious about thoughts, the chatter thoughts, and even the clarity thoughts I just explained. So do a little recap of the last 2 weeks and just become aware what you've become aware of already. Just as the little positive confirmations to yourself that things are changing, or there are new insights, or whatever it is. Let go of the judgment there. Just be happy with anything that's has changed, which you feel good about. So I'm going to now really sit in silence for you for another 15 minutes. Not for you, but I'm just going to sit here. You can continue the video. I won't say, well, I might say goodbye at the end, but I won't say anything in between. And Just go into meditation. Garbage man driving by pulled me out of it, and I thought, like, oh damn, forgot to put it outside. Okay. Thanks for staying with me. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.